I'm here with Laurie Turnbull, who is the New Zealand First candidate for Napier. Kia ora, Laurie, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Show.
Thank you so much for having me this morning, Andrew.
Yeah. Laurie, you're a family man, a former corrections officer as well. Why would you want to stand for, or stand in Napier for New Zealand First?
Well, it's been a while since we've had a candidate, Andrew, and with the state of the country, especially around democracy, which is basically been broken by this current government. I'm here as a New Zealand First candidate to get some democracy put back into our country. And yes, I'm a father of 6 children.
Wow. Yeah. And so, as mentioned, you were in corrections for many years. Tell us a bit about your background.
Well, coming back from, I was overseas for many number of years. Coming back to New Zealand, seemed to be in the age group that wasn't wanted by a lot of companies. And I had a friend of my son's said, well, why don't you have a look at corrections? So I applied to corrections, went through the process and got selected as a corrections officer for the Hawke's Bay Regional Prisons.
Okay, and how long were you there for?
Only 4 years.
Okay. And you're originally from Wairau, is that?
Born and bred in Wairau, yes, 4th generation.
Okay. And what did you do? What has been your career path?
In those days, I started off as a telecommunications linesman. This is before we had mobile phones. This is when we had poles and wires. Worked there for 16 years, married a local girl, married Patty Ann Paku from Wairau. Had 2 children, and we moved to Port Moresby in the same sort of role as telecom engineering. Yeah. Then moved from there to Dubai, well basically Sharjah, in 1995, and then moved around in the corrections. In the telecommunications, and then got into change management, HR. I did a postgraduate diploma extramurally through Massey University. Got into some senior roles, ended up as the Director of HR and Change Management at Dubai Internet City. Did some work in Saudi Arabia, and then decided, by that time I had married again and had 4 children. Decided to bring children back to New Zealand, and just found the country was not the country I'd left. So yeah, it was quite sad to see where we are these days.
Okay, well, we'll get more into that, but you standing for the party vote, so you're not wanting to go down to Parliament. So why is that so important, the party vote?
Well, we need to get a presence back in government, Andrew.
Yeah.
Probably maybe on the crossbenches, just to get a voice around democracy, sovereignty, which is another part of the nation that we're losing. So yes, we're driving to get the party vote, but I'm not saying don't vote for me. Excuse me. But no, the whole campaign this year is for the party vote to get back into government and get some stability and change our country back.
Yeah, because at the moment, in one of the latest polls, New Zealand First is just over 3%, I think, and obviously the threshold is 5%. Now, you mentioned, you say people mustn't not vote for you. So are you calling for people to vote for you, or what?
Well, the thing is, if people are so staunch about getting New Zealand First back there and they think that I may be the best candidate for Napier, of course. Okay,
so you're not ruling that out, yeah?
No, but again, the prime objective is the party vote. Okay,
and now it's interesting because you're not standing the candidate in Tukituk, but you stand in the candidate here. It seems like almost Winston Peters and New Zealand First has picked which seats they want to target.
Well, I'm not sure where they've picked seats, but I know there's a few more candidates coming for different areas. I'm sure they probably asked candidates for a lot of electorates, and probably that they thought Napier was a good opportunity, because in the last election we did get an 8% party vote in Napier. Well. So yeah, we're ready to roll out the New Zealand First flag.
Yeah, and what does that consist of? What is your campaign strategy? Have you got billboards and hoardings, and are you door knocking? What are you doing?
All of those, Andrew. Yeah. We've just finished the party conference in Auckland, and Winston has a new slogan, a logo. logo for this year's campaign, so we needed to wait to get that launched, and then we'll start doing all those. Yes, we'll do door knocking, we'll do try to get to as many events as I can. We'll put hoardings up. Yeah, we'll just do what the other parties are doing, but get a proper message out there about why we should vote. Vote New Zealand First.
Elections cost quite a bit, and campaigns and that. How are you funding this, or is this centrally funded?
Well, I'm paying a lot myself. I'm fundraising. I'd like people who see this broadcast to help us fundraise. But no, we don't get a lot of finance around it, so it's just basically a passion to get this country back where we should be, and that's the passion I've got.
Yeah. And obviously Hawke's Bay has been affected by Cyclone Gabrielle. Were you personally affected at all?
We had some flooding in the area, but lucky for us, no, we didn't get any serious flooding.
What do you think of the government and council response to the cyclone? Has it been enough?
Well, it's like trying to second guess stuff, but I think they did a lot of good stuff, but I think there was a lot of lag and time of getting stuff done. But I think the initial response was very good. We had 2 international students from Colenso College with us, and we took them somewhere to a college that they were looked after. So no, there was a lot of stuff done to help people. The army came down, but I guess because it was such a massive event, it was just hard to try and put all the fires out at once. But I think it's gradually getting back, but I think it's just a lot of time to get things sorted, because I know the Mayor of Wairau, Craig Little, who's a friend of mine, I've spoken to him a lot of times, and I know my home in North Clyde was flooded, so I'm going to go and have a look at that. I'm going back to Wairau next week, talk to a few people. He said they were just having a bit of a issue getting money back, so they still have to pay money, but they're not getting a lot of money to pay these bills. So again, it's just an ongoing issue.
Now, New Zealand First, when they were part of the Labour government, a coalition with Labour, they brought about the Provincial Growth Fund. And there's a stop bank behind Pettigrew Green Arena that was raised, and that actually stopped Taradale and that being inundated. What's your view on what you achieved with what the party achieved with Provincial Growth Fund?
Well, that was one of the main. The other, as part of the alliance with Labour, was to get 1,800 new police, frontline police. That was from New Zealand First. That was never from Labour, even though they say it was from them. That was a New Zealand First criteria to go with Labour. The $4 billion Provincial Growth Fund, I know from Craig that 36.6 million was spent just in Wairau because of his push to get it, because we needed lots of stuff done in Wairau. And the stop bank in Taradale, that was engineered to be raised to a certain height, but they said no, put another metre on top of that to get the stop bank up to a really good height. And when the cyclone hit, the water got within 6 inches of going over the top of that stop bank. So the whole suburb of Taradale can thank Winston Peters and the New Zealand, the Provincial Growth Fund, for saving that whole suburb, which, as you can imagine, would have been billions of dollars in destruction.
Now
a lot of work.
Now you mentioned extra police as well. Obviously, crime is an important issue for New Zealand First. What's your views and what are your policies on that?
Well, we need to get more police, another 1,000 frontline police. The biggest thing is, when I was in the Corrections, Department of Corrections, there was a reduction in the number of inmates. Our muster in the Hawke's Bay Regional Prison had dropped by almost 20%, and then crime has gone up almost 30%. So there's a direct relationship between putting prisoners into the environment and then just expecting them not to commit crimes again. So that was quite sad. The really thing is to get hard on gangs, to consider them as a terrorist organisation, to really clamp down on them, to totally try and close them out. There was a plan to have a gang prison, because I know, working in the corrections department, young guys coming into the prison system were basically recruited by the gangs. So you've got that horrible scenario where young guys have never been in prison, they're coming into prison and they get recruited, because if they don't, they could face dire consequences. So that was one. It's the police, it's the prisons. Ram raids are up 600%. So you've just got to look at all the parts that touch people, I suppose, in the environment. But the main thing is to put a focus back on victims. Whereas in the past it's been the focus is on the criminal, but New Zealand First will put a massive approach and look after the victims of crime, not just the criminals themselves.
Yeah.
And also as part of that, to look at ACC to support victims and look after them and mandate them through any troubles they're having after the event.
Because there's a school of thought that prisons don't work. And you haven't been on the inside.
I've been on this prison.
Do they work?
They do work.
Yeah.
Prisons are there to put criminals away from the public, and they work.
And is there much rehabilitation there?
Oh, a massive amounts. There's a lot of them. Young guys come in. Their numeracy and literacy is so poor. We do that within the prison system. We do drive. They can do driving licenses. I was in the drug treatment unit, 4A, which is a drug treatment unit. These young guys are coming in. They're looked after by an external entity, and they take them through this, and that really gets to them about why they offended and what their future is in life. And a lot of them think, well, yeah, thank goodness that I had this opportunity to come through this. There's a Maori focus unit that has been closed down. And that was all about bringing the young guys in and taking them through their culture, and they were doing carving, and so there's a lot of stuff that's good inside prison.
And are you saying that some of these services have been closed down?
Well, the drug treatment unit, I heard, is starting up again.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about Unit 5, which is the Maori Focus unit.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we've also been through COVID over the last few years, and that. What was your view on the way the government handled it, and also do you believe vaccines? Do you believe in vaccines? Well,
I'm fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
I've had the 3 vaccines. I guess it's about freedom of choice. A lot of people didn't get them and they got mandated out. So again, that's our policy, to get those people back into work who didn't get vaccinated, but to get them back into where they belong, into working in their careers that they've taken. There was a lot of. I know in the first lockdown, New Zealand First thought, yes, this is a positive way. But the second lockdown, it just seemed it was just over the top. And unfortunately now, you never hear about COVID. So what's the big issue? Why isn't it? You don't hear how many people have got it, how many people have died. It just seems to have disappeared. But no, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at about how the government handled the second lockdown and ongoing.
And what's your view on the protests in Parliament last year and how they were handled?
The COVID?
Yeah.
I think it was just too much. They shouldn't have gone to that extreme. But a lot of people were out of work. A lot of businesses were shut down. I just think the public wasn't listened to. There was no, what can we do in the second lockdown, or should there be more lockdowns? And they just closed us down. My daughter came and told me, she said, Dad, there's been one case in Auckland, and they just had to close the country down. Yeah. So it was a bit of an overreaction. I thought it should have been managed better. Yeah.
Now, obviously, climate change is a big part of the government's focus on that. Do you believe in climate change?
I believe there's something going on.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether it's as bad as what people are saying. A lot of it is fear. A lot of it is threat.
Isn't Cyclone Gabriel the example of what is happening? That it is.
Well, if you look back in history, there's been worse events in Napier. There was worse events in the 30s. It's just when you look at a cyclone, it's where it hits. Because I was in Waira when Cyclone Bowler hit. It took out our bridge. It flooded the town, but it was it's where it hits, where the actual cyclone struck. Because if you're hitting an area like, where was the worst area? Not at West Shore.
Yeah.
What was the area that got hit the worst?
Airsdale.
Sorry about that. That was centralised there because of the terrain. That just took all the water. Yeah. But again, it's where the patterns need to be looked at. But I think the New Zealand First would look at different ways of approaching climate change to get some real
What are
data.
some of those ways?
Just looking at what the world, who's putting these messages out, what they're sort of pushing out, what messages we're getting, and just have a look, look at both sides of the impact of climate.
Yeah, and in terms of, obviously there's a big rebuild with the cyclone and that, and a lot of people I'm speaking to are talking about the state of our roads and the potholes. What's your view on that?
Well, the
And what
roading
should be
is
done?
terrible. I know a lot of the materials are coming from overseas.
Yeah.
We're not using stuff from New Zealand to do our roads. It's just a lot spent in the wrong areas. Like remember there's a section of road between Napier and Taupo that was closed to 80, was shut down, brought in 80 k's an hour purely because the roads are bad. You don't change the speed limit because you fix the roads. I think they really need to have a push at looking at roading. And it's another thing from New Zealand First will be looking at getting the rail systems back up and running to try and move this stuff away from using the roads.
Yeah.
I know the Gisborne Napier Railroad has been closed for a long time, so we'd be looking at getting that back and trying to get the rail system up. So then you're starting to look at getting a lot of the heavy stuff off the roads and onto the rail again.
Because the Act are proposing a sort of private-public partnership for toll roads. Is that too far, do you think?
Oh, that's too far, I believe. See, we're about nationalism. We're a national. We can do stuff in New Zealand. We don't need to bring overseas companies in to New Zealand. Yeah, we've got to do our own stuff.
And any other issues that you feel strongly about that you're standing on? Oh,
gee whiz, it'd probably be obviously law and order, which is a massive thing. So as I said, we've touched on that. Education, which is when you've got a truancy rate of something like 60%. You've got teachers that are getting assaulted. You've got now with this new ideology that's coming out from the Labour government about gender ideology. I just think we've got to get back to the basics. We really need to get back to the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, and just teaching children stuff they'll need in the future, and to change, what were they talking about, things like maths, physics, chemistry, science, to do away with a lot of that stuff and bring in some theories of spiritualism. No, I think we've lost the plot. We really need to go back and have a look at the whole education system. And I think one of the plans for New Zealand First is to bring back the old teachers' training colleges.
Okay.
Because they produced some amazing teachers. Yeah. And you asked them in those days, it was specifically around being a teacher, not stuff that's going through them. Getting the way they're doing it now. Yeah,
it's a long road. It's a hard road for New Zealand First to get back into Parliament. You think they can do it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And now, why should people vote for you and New Zealand First?
Get us back into government and make a difference. As I said, there's things that weren't discussed in the last government, things like co-governance, 3 waters, all these things need to be totally removed from our environment.
So you're anti-co-governance?
Anti-co-governance, 100%.
What do you think of this roadshow that's been going around the anti-co-governance? Do you support
Julian
it?
Batchelor?
Yeah.
I believe that Julian has a voice. He should be listened to. People should go along if they're not... to go along to an event that's just there to hear Julian speak. Both Chris Luxon and Chris Hipkins have said, and they've stated this, that people need to know about co-governance and people should be able to listen to both sides of the story, but to have activists turn up and totally shut it down is wrong. That's not democracy.
Yeah. So you're saying so people must vote for the party, and you're going to be out there calling for that?
Oh yes, 100%. Yeah. And we'll be out there on every corner. As I said, the main drive of this election is to party vote New Zealand First. But if they think I'm the best candidate for Napier, which I believe I could be, I am, vote for me as well.
Okay. Laurie Turnbull, thank you for your time today and good luck for the elections.
Thank you, Andrew. God bless.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you.